Are you sick and tired of being told that something is actually going to happen? That someone's going to take fall for the endless amounts of corruption we're seeing every day? Well, stand by as I put them to the task. This is the David Rutherford Show. What are the things that keep a society together? The majority adherence to a higher level moral agreement. A set of rules that can be modeled effectively across a span of time that can weather the storms of war, economic strife, cultural conflicts, and political instability. A framework that gives the majority of the population a genuine sense of fairness, civility, and decency. That's why America is such a powerful framework for a functioning society. And it's the institutions of that society that hold together that framework. At its core, it's a strong religious community, a deep commitment to the family structure, and a mutual understanding and agreed upon set of rules that govern the collective behavior. Over the course of our 250-year history, we have had that framework stressed on many occasions. Most notably, from 1861 to 1865 during the Civil War, where a key principle of our collective responsibility had come into question: the laws of nature and of nature's God which entitled them. The outcome was catastrophic, to say the least. The rough estimates include 620,000 military deaths and another 100,000 plus civilian casualties, roughly 2% of the population. We cannot fully grasp the magnitude of this travesty and have essentially forgiven our responsibility of teaching in detail what this level of carnage does to a population's psyche. And slowly, the pain of that tragedy has slipped into the faded memories of our empire's past. Yet, as our nation prepares itself to reach a significant milestone, our quarter millennium, we are seemingly building towards another confrontation of constitutional crisis. And once again, the American people are diverging away from the foundational principles which enable our individual commitments to unite across our span of unique diversities. It is my belief that the American people have grown so profoundly skeptical and dissatisfied with our corrupt institutions that a radical and segmented form of populism is emerging. With each passing day, we bear witness to the insatiable appetites of those in power. The unscrupulous elites going unchecked in their nefarious activities is causing a collapse in the collective confidence of the American people. If this administration, Congress, Senate, or even perhaps a certain courageous state politician don't begin to rein in the unchecked corruption, malevolence, and flagrant attacks on our framework of society, then it will be their legacy that is tarnished, but our lives will be the ones that are destroyed. My best friend, Sean Ryan, was recently on the Tucker Carlson show. And the thing that stood out to me in the most extreme way was when he made the comment to Tucker suggesting that everything is a lie now. Now, I know because he said that to me many, many times prior to him telling Tucker on air. And in our conversations, the same question that perhaps you had, I presented to him, which was, as well as Tucker, which was, what do you mean? What do you mean everything is a lie? Now, if you wanted to go down those crazy matrix rabbit holes of 17 different dimensions and the fact that we're just vessels for other worldly incarnations or aliens, and that we're just being filled with an alternative reality, then have at it. But that's not what I believe he meant. What I believe he meant, and what I believe a lot of other people that I know and care for and respect deeply, is that the institutions, the histories, The ideas that when maybe we were children growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that we came to believe that represented America's patriotism, that represented America's greatness, that represented America's position in the world, were infallible. And what we now know is that that's just not the case. Even just watching Joe Rogan and Aaron Rodgers on the other day as well, too, they talked once again extensively about the COVID-19 debacle. Not only just the fact that still to this day, nobody has been held accountable for the release of a bioweapon that into the world, killing an estimated, I don't know, Jordy, it's somewhere around, would you find that number? I think people are saying it's between 17 and 21 million people.
Yep.
Right?
Let me look that up right now.
Look that up for me, would you? And, from a personal perspective, Joe Rogan, was doctored by the mass media. They were calling him out. They said Aaron Rodgers was nuts in the NFL. They tried to make an example of him because he didn't want the vaccine. Where in all of the retribution that so many people had to face because they went against whatever the normative lie was, the coerced narrative that was thrust down everybody's throat. What we now know, in particular after last week and this week's testimony on Capitol Hill, that the impact of the vaccines and the impact of COVID itself were catastrophic on just about every level of society. Not only from vaccine injured people that died from COVID itself, how many different businesses were collapsed and put under because of the draconian tyrannical laws that were passed during the 2 weeks to flatten the curve debacle. And then also to the emergence of just the outright constitutional and beyond that, just the Geneva Convention atrocities of forced vaccination. And otherwise you'll lose your job, you'll lose your place in the military, all of these things, right? And then one of the testimonies, and Jordy's going to present this, going to show this here in a second. This one person testified that pregnancies, miscarriages, and deaths skyrocketed to an astronomical level.
This deception was institutionalized in the now infamous Shimabukuro study published on April 21st, 2021 in the digital version of the New England Journal of Medicine. 21 authors claimed the miscarriage rate was 12.6%, but the raw data revealed an 82% miscarriage rate in women vaccinated during the first trimester. This figure mirrors the effects of chemical abortion drugs such as RU-486. This is not hypothetical. It happened to me. On February 8th, 2025, our team of researchers published a peer-reviewed study in Science, Public Health Policy, and the Law. We identified 37 adverse pregnancy outcomes significantly associated with COVID-19 vaccine, including miscarriage, stillbirth, birth defects, cervical insufficiency, premature ruptured membranes, preterm birth, and death of the newborn. Lin and colleagues in a major journal publication documented that the COVID-19 vaccine traverses the placenta, enters the fetal blood, and bioactively produces spike protein in the placenta and the lining of the uterus. Recently, animal studies revealed the mRNA COVID vaccine causes the destruction of 60% of the ovarian reserve in rats. This catastrophic public health failure was financed with taxpayer dollars and channeled through federal agencies to medical gatekeepers such as the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, ACOG, the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, ABOG, and the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, SMFM. These organizations have abandoned their ethics and responsibilities to physicians and patients and must be held accountable.
It's just an abomination, right? That these are the institutions, in particular the health, the state of health, the HHS, the NIH, all of these fundamental aspects of the security which embodies a society have ultimately just collapsed. Did you find those numbers, Jordy?
Yes. So looks like for the COVID-19 death toll, one estimate shows that in 2024, that over 7 million people have died from COVID-19 since the pandemic began in 2019, late 2019. That's confirmed COVID deaths. Now, if you add in excess deaths that are tangentially related to the pandemic, now you're getting up into the potentially 15 million, up as high as some people estimate up in the 30 millions from excess deaths related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
And if you're interested in learning more about those excess deaths, there's a guy out there, his name's Ed Dowd. He's a former BlackRock analyst. He's been keeping track of all the excess mortality through the insurance companies. And then there's a couple other people out there that are keeping track of the coroner reports. And these massive studies have come out about the coroner reports and have been directly tied to deaths from COVID vaccinations and COVID. Just a quick interruption. What I want you to do is think about how awesome your food will be if you have a Firecracker Farm salt shaker. Firecracker Farm is the absolute best additive I've ever had to my food. Every morning on my eggs, I go and the beautiful little salt shaker that's infused with salt and ghost pepper and reaper pepper and scorpion peppers all in there on a bunch of different heat levels. Put it on my food. I put it on my steak. And I'll tell you what, my food has never tasted better. So please go to firecracker.farm, type in RUT15. That's Romeo Uniform Tango 15. You'll get a discount. And please, when you send your little note, tell Alex and his family that old Rut sent you. Firecracker.farm. Booyah. So you have all that. And then just today, as I was preparing the show and putting it together, I watched the testimony of a person at DOE, at the Department of Energy, who testified to the fact that in the 76 days from when the election took place to where Trump went into office, $93 billion in loans were administered just through the Department of Energy. And what this gentleman also said, and we'll play that cut for you here too once I'm done with this, that gentleman said many hundreds of these applications, there were no business plans attached to this. Just simply, hey, I've got this idea and just give me a couple $2 billion as I go out the door.
The 76-day period you're talking about, that's the period between the time that President Trump was elected and President Biden left office. Is that right?
That is correct.
And during that short period of time, 76 days, how much taxpayer money went out the door of the Department of Energy?
From the Loan Program Office in loans and commitments, $93 billion. Well over twice as much as in the previous 15 years.
How do you vet and do due diligence on a loan in 76 days? One loan, much less $93 billion. How do you do it?
I think it's probably pretty clear it wasn't done in many cases. As I mentioned, I'm told I'm holding back clearly in place stuff There is lots of funds that have gone out the door and commitments that were made from businesses that provided no business plan, no numbers about their own financial solvency or how this project
So
can
you're
actually
telling
work.
me that the Department of Energy, in the 76-day period before their boss was going to leave office, gave or loaned money to entities that had no business plan,
Correct.
no financials?
Correct. A number of those were were before the 76-day period as well. I've come in with great concern about how this institution, this great American institution, has been run and how American taxpayer money has been handled.
Now, we already understand the magnitude of what we found from USAID and the nefarious activities that they were operating in, how much the $50 billion and how they were funding news organizations all around the world, judicial reports, judicial organizations that would highlight judiciary problem sets to get certain people thrown in jail overseas in the different countries that we were influencing, shall we say. You've got what we've now discovered, including Harvard. Harvard was set to receive $9 billion in federal grants this year alone. Now, I will admit that Trump has negated 4-point-something billion of that. Kristi Noem and HHS just revoked all foreign visas to attend Harvard because they're completely denying the executive orders that Trump put in place. They actually are suing the Trump administration to receive their grants because they're owed those. Here's another one that we found. Jordy, will you look up total number of illegal immigrants and asylum seekers that have come into the country in the last, let's just say, 5 years?
Yep.
Now, I looked up the numbers on this, and roughly 50 to 100 NGOs, plus there was international funding to groups like HIAS and Red Cross, different international aid organizations. But in America alone, in 2023, these organizations, these nonprofits, received approximately $770 million to assist within the support of these incoming illegals. Did you find that number, Jordy?
Yes, it's interesting. They categorize it differently, but in terms of, let's see, border encounters from 2021 through 2024, Customs and Border Protection recorded over 10.8 million encounters nationwide, including 8.72 million on the southwest border. Asylum seekers, 2023, they received 945,000 asylum applications. So you're in the tens of millions right now.
All right. Now, all I just challenge you to do is to go out and just do a little research on history and see what happens when a particular society or civilization is flooded with outside immigrants, right? What happens to the culture? What happens to the rules? What happens to the financials? And as a country that's already closing in on $38 trillion in debt, this potential influx of people that the country can't support could collapse our system at any minute. All right. The Afghan withdrawal, right, to the tune of $86 billion of equipment left behind. And also, Sean has exposed the fact that we're still funding the Taliban to the tune of $40 million a week. And that there's a bill on the House floor that has not been voted on in order to revoke paying the Taliban in Afghanistan this money. Meanwhile, some other people, Sarah Adams, who's been on a show, has already established that are somewhere over 20 plus terrorist organizations are actively training in Afghanistan right now, and also said that the people who committed the atrocities on October 7th in Israel had trained or received training or had people coaching them in the operations from Afghanistan. Now, I list all this stuff out, and I'm, to a certain degree, hopefully you're aware of some of these things. And then again, that's what I feel, what Jordy and I feel our responsibilities are on the David Rutherford Show, is to consolidate all this information and put it together in a way that you can begin to wrap your mind around this. Because one of the hardest things is the jolt in this assault on the framework that I spoke about in my monologue at the beginning is taking place. And that's a real thing. And what I have to ask is, who's responsible and who's going to pay? Because that's what the American public are thinking right now. That's what I'm thinking. That's what all my friends are thinking. That's what the people I engage with, the people I'm having on the show are thinking. When are the convictions going to take place? Because the expectation has now gotten so ridiculous that the average statement of the conversations I get in, and remember, I'm in front of thousands of people every year all around the country. And these are people that are operating very significant businesses that are very tied into the financial world at every level. And the preponderance is across the entire country right now. Like, what is going on? Who's responsible and who's going to pay? And it's not just this. It's not just what we've seen in terms of government corruption. It's the corruption that's fused into the other aspects of our society as well, too. When we look at, the Diddy case, right? My God, this man operated at an incredible level, conducting these, the sex parties is not it. It's the manipulation. It's the level of corruption and intimidation, and essentially creating his own mafia within the industry. And my point to that is like, well, who gave him his start? Who taught him how to do this? Who funded him? Is it the heads of these music organizations? Is it private funding? Is it private equity out there? Who knows? And don't even get me started on Epstein. I think the simple fact of the matter that when people say, well, we did have a conviction, we had Ghislaine Maxwell. Well, what about the individuals that she farmed these young, innocent girls out to? And I'm here to tell you, I have 4 daughters. And the imagination that they could be preyed on by these predators that are out in the world at these talent agencies, at working for these companies like Abercrombie and Fitch, or all these other nefarious people out there, or these hotel industries, or wherever these people are tied into Epstein. It's a staggering reality. Where are the people who are responsible for purchasing and manipulating, abusing, raping, and potentially killing these young girls and people? When are they going to be convicted? Who's responsible, and when are the convictions going to start? Now, again, it's blatantly obvious that this is nothing new. One more quick interruption. Don't forget, this Saturday, May 31st, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you go to our Patreon account at David Rutherford Show, you will get a free live motivational speaking event from yours truly with a follow-on Q&A that you can participate on. So go visit our Patreon account at David Rutherford Show, $2 a month subscription fee. Get your live Frog Logic motivational event. Don't miss it. May 31st, 11 o'clock. Booyah. Perhaps, and I think all you got to do is just dig in a little bit deeper, and this has been going on for a very, very long time. Forget Russiagate, the Durham report, the manipulation of the 2016 election, the 2020 election. Let's not even get into that, because I could spend 10 hours talking about those travesties of justice. Or how about Jim Jordan's oversight committee, where they discovered $27 million in foreign payments going to the Biden family across 20 different LLCs, most of which had no actual production of value, no services, no nothing. But what happened? Who's responsible and where are the convictions? Now, what I found fascinating is that we now know conclusively that Joe Biden essentially had lost pretty much all of his faculties. He was not operating anywhere near what a U.S. president should be supposed to do in office, and everybody in the mainstream media covered it up, right? Who is the person that pardoned all of his family? Who's responsible for that? Who is the person on that auto pen, which we now know was working overtime? I wonder how many little machine engines they broke on that sucker, how many auto pens. They probably had a whole room with like 35 or 40, like your bot farms over in Ukraine or wherever. You had 25, rows of auto pens just signing the 8,000 different pardons that came out of that. Or the billions and billions of dollars that was just sent out the door. Yep. President approves that. President approves that. President approved that. How many people paid themselves to get rich on the way out the door, which we're beginning to find out? I'm going to do a show on this specifically in a few weeks. I'm trying to dig in and find an expert on that right now. Who's responsible and when are we going to see a conviction? Again, and I just began to reference, this is not new. Many presidents, it's widely known that Reagan had pretty significant Alzheimer's towards the end of his 8 years. We know that the health of Roosevelt was pretty horrific towards the end of his career. So we know that presidents, we know that John F. Kennedy was on a significant cocktail to support his addictions from his pain from his PT boat and his injuries from World War II. We know a lot of these things that the president endured during their time in that potentially reduced their capacity. And we also know that presidents have continuously been lied to the American public. Don't even get me started about the Iraq War. The more and more and more I find out about that, the more and more I want to understand who's responsible and how come we didn't see any convictions. How come nobody's gotten up and said, yep, I'm sorry for what I did? And I think the answer is pretty obvious. I think the answer is really obvious, in fact. The answer is because nobody's going to hold us responsible. Nobody's going to convict us. Nobody's going to file a lawsuit. It's not the way it's done. This is the system. It's been the system for a very long period of time. But it just seems like now, with the incredible effort of Elon Musk and him purchasing X so that we could have some free information and other sites out there, all the independent media sources that are trying to bring the truth forward at last. Who's responsible and when are we going to see some convictions? Now, I will say we have seen some positive aspects. I always want to try and find those. The border is shut down. USAID's funding has been revoked. Although what I have to say is that the new omnibus bill, the very beautiful bill, I can't do Trump. I wish I could do it because he's so awesome to imitate. There's no reduction in spending in this thing. And that was another aspect of what they said. We're going to reduce spending. Now, we've seen all these things come out because of Doge, but where are those cuts and when are they going to take place? Now, I know what everybody keeps saying, run and hold, buddy, and hold. Just slow your roll there. It's part of the plan. We're going to build up the tariffs, bring that in. Then we'll start cutting. We're shrinking the size of government. We're doing all this and we're doing all that. Great. Who's responsible and when are we going to see a conviction? That's what I need. That's what you need. So, we always want to have a mission, right? Every day we get up. I mean, I spent 15 years of my life adhering to a mission. And that mission was to do my part to make sure that the Constitution was still relevant, that the Constitution was still strong, and that the Constitution was something that I was going to be proud to make sure that my children, my daughters, my family members, the people I know, the people I love, that we could still believe in. That it's the thing that every single day I think to myself, my God, how blessed am I to be able to call myself an American? How blessed am I to be able to have served this country and to continue serving in the various ways that I do? How blessed am I? However, who's responsible and when are we going to see a conviction? So your mission, I want you to start banging on your local congressman. I want you to start banging on your governor. I want you to start banging on your attorney general. I want you to start banging on your senator. I want you to start banging on the people that have been nominated to bring justice to the forefront of the American consciousness so that this pain that our society is in can begin to feel whole. Who is responsible and when will we see the conviction? Thank you.